Hey guys, it's Dean. Welcome to the Better Man Podcast. Today's episode, I've got Jesse Lee, who is our community service manager and also a coach and yoga instructor for Manful Yoga. And here we are going to discuss how community can be helpful to your success with fitness. So, specifically, here we talk about examples from within the Manful Yoga community, but these are concepts that can be applied to any fitness community. Some of the things we go through are how sharing your own experience and normalizing that experience by hearing about others who have had the same experience can be helpful. It's called normalization. We also talk about how you'll be able to do more than you would be able to do on your own, especially if you need a little bit of that extra push. And then we talk about how a good community can not only give you information to help you make decisions and choose what to implement into your fitness routine, but can also help guide you to your own solutions and how having a group mind to work with rather just a one-on-one coach can be helpful with that. So hopefully this is helpful to you. If you have a community of your own, great. You'll be able to take this into that. And if you're already part of the Manful Yoga community, then hopefully these are things that you can utilize as well. As always, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it inspires you to be a better man. Hey guys, what's up? It's Dean. Welcome to the Better Man Podcast. Today I've got Jesse Lee here. He is our customer service manager and also our big and tall yoga instructor. And we're here today to talk about how you can utilize community to be more successful with your fitness.
Thank
Jesse, thanks for
you
being
for
here.
having me once again, Dean. I appreciate it.
Always an exciting conversation. And just want to publicly say thank you for all that you do for Manful Yoga and all the comments that you respond to, all the behind the scenes help desk that you do to keep people happy. Um, it is something that I cannot do well. So I'm glad that we have people who are better people than I am
Well, I
as part of the
appreciate that.
team.
Thank you for continuing to give me a job.
Don't leave me. All right. Let's see here. So yeah, so Jesse has been so you've been the customer service manager since 2019, and then recently you've kind of stepped into, probably, I don't know, within the last year and a half, you've kind of like stepped into
Mhm.
the coaching role as well. And right now we're doing a group coaching program that is highlighting a lot of how community can be helpful um, for doing your workouts more consistently, for also being, involved in an atmosphere that encourages you to do more fitness. But even outside of that group coaching, outside of, this particular community, there are some concepts that, we've experienced and that we're, continuing to develop that you can take into whatever your fitness
Mhm.
program is, and utilize with your own communities. So that's what I want to discuss today. So Jesse, I'll just let you kick it off and talk about your some of your
Oh,
experience with that
wow.
so far.
Well, like you,
How about a vague open-ended question to give you some direction?
well, so when it comes to community, I have a lot of experience with that. I'm a fairly social person, and so I believe in the importance of community. And community has always been a big part of Manflow Yoga, generally speaking. Like we have this huge community, which is really helpful, especially like when you first join. That's been a big part of my job as part of the customer service, customer experience, was helping the community. Community management is also something I kind of is a other part of my job. And so I've really seen the community flourish over the last 5 years. And it's been really great because, like I said, people come in here, they don't know what to do. They don't know where to begin, and they have a lot of questions. And it was really helpful, especially like when we look back at 2020 and 2021 with the pandemic. The whole lack of community physically was hard, and so that's where I think it started to like flourish for us. And so it's been this natural
Hmm.
segue into the coaching, into the small groups. And so that's what I've been working on now. And so I've really seen the community grow as a whole, and I've definitely seen this need for finding the commonalities where people can be coached together, and it helps them be successful, be consistent, be everything, like work towards their goals that they've kind of set as a group.
Yeah. Just to speak to the pandemic situation, so if you're here and you're listening now and you're like, oh yeah, Dean was like my best friend during the pandemic, and after 6 months of just working out by myself and not leaving my house, I just eventually started having conversations and started swearing at him even though he didn't reply, and so I love hearing about those stories and how and fortunately part of manful yoga, even then we had this community. So in addition to this one way this one way relationship, there was also the community where we had people come together and talk about their experiences with the workouts, talk about their struggles during that time, and even afterwards people now continue to share their wins, their struggles, and that normalization is something. Normalization of your own personal experience by hearing about similar experiences from others is what I've found to be this incredibly helpful tool that community can provide. And yeah, so I don't know if you want to speak to that if within the group coaching, but that's something that's always really cool to see when you're talking with a group and like five other guys
Yeah,
go like, oh
yeah,
yeah, me too.
yeah. Um, um, yeah, I can't tell you how often I hear from people. I'll go back to the pandemic part just really fast. How often people will reach out to us and say, you know what, Dean, you got me through some tough times, and then the community did as well. I still hear from people all the time that feedback was like that community and just the coaching, something to rely on regularly was super helpful. Um, yeah, like it's been a really eye-opening experience for me, even as someone who already has experience with our community, now doing it in a coaching role. Because there's this, you find the commonalities, and there's this really rewarding part of the vulnerability of sharing. Someone's like, you know what, I screwed up this week, I wasn't able to do X, Y, and Z. And just yesterday I had one of my coaching calls. Whenever someone has a struggle, at least one other person will raise their hand, be like, "Hey, been there, done that." Quite a few guys.
Mm.
Half the guys are a little older, and so one of them is retiring, and so he has been getting some really good advice from the other guys that have already been retired. I've struggled with weight loss. Yeah, your
Yeah, my
dad.
dad.
Your dad.
my dad's
Your dad's in my
my dad's
group,
in the
and
group.
he's actually one of
Pops
my.
is his
I
name
wouldn't
there.
call him a what. It just he's just a group member. He's one of my favorites. I really enjoy talking to him. And so it's been really a good experience because there's these common grounds, where I'm able to bring my experiences to the group as well, and so them sharing has helped me. And it's funny because I'm supposed to be the coach, and so I'm coaching and I'm kind of guiding the conversation. I'm making sure we're all talking about our goals, but at the same time, I'm really benefiting from it because there is this open communication, and it's really helping me along my journey as well. So yeah, it's definitely once they've
Mhm.
all kind of learned to be, because we've been doing this cohort for a month now. Once they've learned more about each other, like the meeting starts and it's just a great conversation because they find this, support based in everything that they have in
Yeah. And
common.
it's something that we've heard from, we've been doing this for, um, we started this with this experimental kind of engage
Mhm.
community about a year ago. Um, and we were initially concerned, like, well, are people really going to open up in an online setting? And I think I remember Patrick, who is one of our other coaches. He's kind of like we call him our motivation and consistency coach, but he's so much more than that. Um, and he kind of like after a few sessions, it kind of came out that okay, it's like after 4 weeks, after like 4 weeks of consistency, then people really start to like
Mhm.
come out of their shells, and then the group really starts to form this cohesion.
Yeah, no,
So.
I've definitely noticed that, especially this week, because this was the fifth week. And so it's 4 weeks together. We all have our Telegram, we communicate daily. And it's funny because there's even the guys in the group. I'm not going to call it your dad, but your dad's one of them, where they don't do a lot of the social communication throughout the week. But then he relies really heavily on the group, and he's there every Wednesday, and actually had the feedback that he sees everything that we talk about, and it's motivating for him. So it's great to see that
Mhm.
there's levels of comfort. There's people that want to share every day, and there's people that don't share as often, but everyone still reaps the benefits. A lot of people that need to share
Mhm.
get like that check mark, that like little satisfaction. I did my workout, I shared it with the group, I did it. And then there's the people that need the motivation of seeing the
Hmm.
other people, like, you know what, I'm not big on sharing everything, but seeing this group kick ass and continue doing it is going to motivate me. So like no matter what your level of involvement is, it's still super motivating. And then we get together every week and we see everybody.
Yeah. So I'm hearing that having that group accountability of seeing other people do their workouts inspires you to do workouts that, maybe in the moment you don't want to do, but you think of your group. You're like, oh, these guys are all doing their workouts and I'm going to do my workout too. And I think the other thing that stood out from what you said, and I've talked to my dad about this as well. And we've seen it in the community, but every now and then you see a post or you see a comment from somebody who's like, "Hey, I've been, a part of Manful Yoga for years, and up until now, I've just been, what does my dad? He calls himself like a voyeur, right? Or like, what's the term? He has he told you this term? Basically, it's like this. He's like, I watch, but I don't actually do anything, but I'm
He's like a
there,
lurker,
you
basically.
know.
Yeah, he
Um,
watches, but he doesn't really get too involved. But he shows up and he participates in the group setting, which is really great. Like when we're all video talking,
yeah.
he has a lot to say.
Yeah. But eventually these people who don't say anything, they see enough other people doing it and like it inspires them. It kind of brings them out of their comfort zone. And then they say, hey, like I just wanted to say I don't normally post, but I'm really inspired by all the things that you guys are saying here. And, I'm making this isn't, I don't know if I'll do this, regularly, but I just wanted to come in and say hi and I appreciate everybody. And so I think it's really cool for those accountability reasons, just that excitement, but also because it being in this environment where you're seeing other people, sharing things, it eventually encourages people who wouldn't otherwise share things to kind of come out of the woodwork and say like, hey, like I'm here too,
Yeah.
and thank you.
Yeah, I see that also happens often in our greater community because we have that Facebook group and we have the members area. We have all these places where members can communicate. Every once in a while, one of those people that doesn't post very often will pop in there, and it's really refreshing because everyone loves it. Because like, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. We're glad that you posted, and then and then they always appreciate the feedback. So yeah, it's
Hmm.
when it comes to community, everyone has a certain comfort level, and so you can't expect the same from everyone. Like I don't, I've threatened the guys. I'm like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
if I don't hear from you, you're gonna hear from me. I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna email you. And I've also I've given them the opportunity, like, hey, if you need that little love, that tough love of like, hey, where are you? Let me know. I haven't done it yet, but yeah, like what they're all definitely pulling from the experience what they need personally. And so I'm feeling like they're all kind of striving and working towards the goals that we set up in the very first week.
Yeah. And yeah, I think it's a good point that there are, some people who are going to talk more, some people who are going to talk less. And we've been fortunate that we've been able to create groups that, have a good amount of both. So we've been lucky not to get into the situation where it's like 10 of my dads in the same group and they're all just like looking at one another like, well, this is dumb. No one's saying anything. Um,
Uh, you know,
but, um, but
I'll,
yeah,
I'll
anyways.
gladly talk the whole time if they need me to. I prefer not to. And yeah, no, I always started off by talking and then gently give suggestions. And then there's always the people that, I want everyone to talk whenever we have our group discussions. It's always like you're going to have to talk at some point. And then if you're the last one, I'm going to call you out,
Mhm.
and I want you all to volunteer. So at least they all go into the meeting knowing that they're going to be required to talk.
You're also talking about this earlier, but I think one thing that's good to know about like a good group coach facilitator is that they aren't there to answer all of your questions. They're there more so to guide you to your own answer. And that's something that I really appreciate. That's one reason why like I brought Patrick on board because we talked with probably like 5 or 6 other people. We had a lot of people apply, but we had like 5 or 6 people apply, 5 or 6 people that we actually interviewed, and Patrick really stood out as this person who kind of empowered you to come to your own to come to your own conclusions rather than somebody just giving you the answer, but helping to ask questions in a way that guides you to come to your own conclusion. Because when you can do that, when you can do that, when you have agency, when you have control over,
Mm,
your response and the outcome or the action that you want to take, you're much more likely to follow through that. And
mm,
so, and I bring that up just in this context because community can be great for providing you with ideas, providing you with like direct advice. If you have a specific situation, being able to talk to a group and saying like, hey, has anybody gone through this before? Like, what information can you provide? Like, just in the last week, we've had um, I've asked people about like, hey, like, could anybody share success with intermittent fasting? And I think
mm,
we had a ton of responses to that. And then yesterday I brought up like, hey, does anybody have experience with prostate cancer? And a ton of people respond to that. And so part of it is getting those direct responses and like getting direct advice. But the other part of community is having a group that encourages you to come to the conclusions yourself. So I'd love it if you could speak to some of that you've noticed in the
yeah.
community in your group coaching.
Yeah. I will say working with Patrick and his ability to help you find your own answers was refreshingly off-putting the first time I was dealing with it, because I think I
Yeah.
said something negative about myself, and I might have been even just joking, but the way that he jumped on that and turned it around, basically I wish I knew exactly, I remember what it was, but he reworded the phrase that I had used in a way that like turned a negative into a positive. And so
Did
it's true.
did he do the yet on you?
I think that might have been one of it.
Yet?
Yet.
It's like, I can't do that yet.
Yeah. And
Yet.
he instills in you this positivity that the solution is there. You just have the wrong attitude, or you haven't looked hard enough, or you just need to take a moment. And it's a great reframe. Um, yeah, when it comes to community, um, and this is something that I personally learned to work with, coming from a community manager as well as a coach. Like if someone has a question about something, in the past I've always been really determined, like I have to find the answer. Even if I don't know what the answer is, I have to find the answer. And it's either I don't always get the right answer, or B, I end up stressing because I don't know the answer. A lot of times the solution is just the community. And
Mhm.
instead of saying, "Oh, I'm going to find the answer for you," I noticed what you did this week when we had someone that was questioning about people's experience with prostate cancer. You didn't have the answer. You didn't look for the answer. You looked to the community. That was the answer, because the community has the tendency, because it's grown to the size where like anytime someone has an issue or question, guarantee there's going to be someone that has experience with it, whether it's directly or indirectly. And so that's something I've learned as a community manager as well as a coach, is that I don't always have to have the answers. I'm not always going to have the answers. And once you enable people to rely on themselves when it comes to it, they also learn that, I'm going to be able to find my own solutions. And when I can't, that's when I can look for a community. And
Mhm.
so it's been refreshing because, working with, like, I have this group of guys, like I said earlier, quite a few of them are retired. The other ones, some other guys are retiring soon. And so I don't know anything about it. And so they've been able to rely on each other when it comes to advice about talking about certain things. And so it's nice. And then I also am learning from that. So the community, it's a big part of it when they can learn to rely on themselves to know the answer, and then realize that there's a point where you can reach out to your community now that you have it, and the answer is going to be there.
Yeah. So getting information from the community
Yeah.
instead of, coming to the person in charge and saying like, what is the answer, all-knowing guru? It's coming to and I don't pretend to do that. I'm like, I don't know. Let me
Yeah.
talk with my wife. She's a really smart physical therapist. Or like, I don't know. I'm gonna ask the community for you.
Yeah.
Like I've done that a lot in the last I mean, both those examples I just gave, those are actually responses to like one-on-one coaching. Those were questions that came up in my one-on-one coaching. I'm like, well, I mean, if you've got a question on that, I'm sure a bunch of other people have
Yeah.
questions. Part of that, just part of that normalization thing of just recognizing like, no, you're not special. A bunch of people have probably the same exact problem that you are, or they've gone through it, or they're eventually going to go through it.
Yeah, and the
So,
difference between like a community, like you could easily Google those things, but
right.
when you start stepping out into the internet and all of that stuff, I was just talking to my teenage daughter yesterday, who was writing a research paper because she was looking on Reddit and Wikipedia, and I said, "Stop! You're going to get so much information that is incorrect and inaccurate." Um, when you have a community,
Here,
you
this is a book.
can. Here's a
Got
book. Let's look at
pages.
those.
Get it from a
When you
library
have a
sometimes.
community and you can find someone that has a similar experience, you can communicate and you can ask questions instead of
Mhm,
googling something someone wrote about it. When you have someone like, oh, you've had the same experience, okay, can you, like, you can, there's a lot to
mhm,
be said about being able to talk back and forth and ask questions and get
mhm.
answers. And so that's a big part of community.
But even and a big part of that also is like, you could go to like a random community and ask a question, but because you don't know that community, you're not going to trust them, and
Yeah,
you're not going to do the thing. So when you're able to consult with a community that you trust,
yeah,
you're going to get information, but you're also going to get that information in a way that you feel motivated to take action,
yeah,
rather than like me doing research on my own and finding like, you know, this this piece of information from a source that I just don't trust. Or
yeah,
um, when we hear stories, when we hear a humanized version of information, we take that into account more so than if we just heard like, unemotional information. So when we hear a personalized story, we're able to take not just the kind of the mental motivation, but we're also able to take the emotional motivation, kind of that limbic system motivation, which is we're emotional beings. We like to think we're logical, but really we use logic to justify emotional decisions and not the other way around. So when we're able to get advice from a community that we trust, we are able to take that action, we take that information, and we're able to put it into action with emotional motivation rather than just like, this half-ass other motivation. That was a long way of saying
no, no, I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm gonna have to go back and review that later, make sure
that.
I fully understand it. But no, like, and that has a lot. That says a lot about our community as well. It's been something that I know that you have worked hard at, and I've worked hard at because we want it to be. We've really made it a big part of Manfly Yoga, and it's something that, like, everyone can experience. Where it's like, if you want a group that has value, you're gonna put work into it. And so we've really wanted it to be this place that if anyone has a question or needs help or needs advice, or if someone just wants to share and get support, that's what it's there for. So it's,
Hmm.
I wouldn't say curated because it's not exactly curated, but it's definitely been, I'm trying to think of a better word than curated. I don't know.
Organically grown,
Organically grown, kind of nurtured. Nurtured, maybe
nurtured.
is the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
It's been nurtured. And so, when and community, community is great in the fitness world. It's great to have that support and that accountability. And but when it comes to groups, like, you can have groups for everything. You can have groups for, quilting clubs to cooking clubs. When you nurture any kind of group, it can grow to this thing that is just really, um, really life and friendship affirming, I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that made me think of something else, because not all the time are people looking for a solution when they're coming to a community. A lot of the time, they're just looking to say like, "Hey, this really sucks right now,"
Yeah.
and in those situations, it's really difficult, especially right, difficult as men,
Mhm.
to look at someone coming to you and saying like, "Hey, this is this I've got this problem," and like the men there who hear that, they're like, "Great, I've got the solution." And in reality, what he really wants is like, "Oh, I don't want the solution. I just want someone to like to pat me on the back and like say that it's okay." And
Mhm.
so I think we do that. I think we do that really well in our community, is knowing when to offer advice and knowing when to just offer support.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's there's something to be said about shouting into the void. Sometimes you just need to. And social media for me, it's always, I have a love-hate relationship with it because I've been able to connect with a lot of great people. It's a big part of my job, and at the same time I get really annoyed when people just want to shout into the void and vague book. Um, When it comes to a group, the big difference is a lot of them are sharing their struggles, not because they want advice. Sometimes it is beneficial, just like I'm having a horrible day, I just need to vent. And it's
Hmm.
great to know that you actually have people listening, not just this huge void of internet where everyone's going to complain, but sometimes it's nice to just share it and get it off your chest. Because, like you said, we as men struggle with that. Sometimes that vulnerability of sharing can be hard. And so that's the value of a community, whether it's 7,000 or 10, just being able to let go of things sometimes.
Hmm. Yeah. And, and also in that letting go process or in that expression process, you get so many people who are likely to respond and empathize with that and say, oh,
Mhm,
yeah, me too. I'm also going through that situation. And it's that. So I'm reading a book right now called Chatter. It's a really
mhm,
interesting book. I've actually had it on my bookshelf for a really long time. And I came in here a couple weeks ago to look for a book that I thought might just like, oh, I'm getting a lot of like I'm having a lot of ruminating thoughts right now, and came in here and I was like, I wonder if there's a new book I can start reading, and I found this book. I'm like, oh, Chatter, okay, and I picked it up and it said like when like I forgot what the subtitle of it was, but basically
mhm,
something along the lines of, like why the voice in your head matters. And I was like, oh, perfect. This is exactly what I wanted to like delve into. And
uh,
so one of the concepts that it talks about is when you're experiencing emotion um, and when you're expressing it, like there's only that's helpful only to it's actually not helpful. It's the people who they did a study and they looked at people who did they looked at people from Virginia Tech. I think the year was forgot the year, but there was a mass shooting in Virginia Tech,
mhm,
and then like shortly after that, there was a mass shooting in, I don't know, this is the United States. It's really hard to keep up with all the mass shootings
yeah,
that we have. But they compared people who talked about the incident versus people who didn't talk about the incident. And there actually was no difference in terms of like recovery from the trauma between the people who really talked about the emotions and the people who just didn't talk about their emotions. So that can be helpful. But what really helped was creating distance from the emotions. So being able to normalize the experience. So, coming in and being able to say something that's really frustrating you is like, yeah, I think it's definitely important to not um, like you want to be honest with yourself and the emotions that you're feeling and not
mhm,
bottle them up. But in so doing, as you express it, if you can receive normalization in response. So if you can realize like, oh, I am not the only person who feels this way.
mhm,
So it's a good way to evoke normalization, I
yeah,
guess, is what I'm saying. And usually people see that after, like you usually see people afterwards in response to the responses that they're getting. They're like, oh, you know what? I think I'm overreacting. Or like, oh yeah, this is really helpful to know that, I'm not the only person. And it's able to
yeah,
like bring them back to a place where they can move forward from the extreme feelings of the emotions and kind of
mhm,
move more into the okay, now what do I do about this?
yeah. No, I get
Realm.
that. So it's like the next step past journaling. I'm also an internalizer. I like to call myself a catastrophizer. I'm a ruminating catastrophizer, and so I'll get into a
Mm,
cycle. Like I'll have that negative thought, and then like it'll sit in there, and then it'll snowball because I won't let it out. And
mm-hmm,
so I will have a tendency. That's when I journal. I'm not a big journaler. Like I don't journal as much as you do, but like when I need to get out of my head, I'll put it on a piece of paper. And if that's not the solution, because sometimes when you can verbalize what you're thinking and you can sit on it and read it and you can look at it like, oh, I'm overreacting. This isn't that big of a deal. If I still need help, it's after that. It's like after I have it down on paper, I'm like, okay, I need some outside input because I'm struggling with this idea or this thought or whatever. That's when you can go to a group and whether it's small group, big group, and then that's when you have that connection because when the oh, you're not special, everyone goes through that. It's kind of nice. It sounds
mm-hmm.
kind of negative to say, hey, you're not special, but it's also really refreshing. It's
Yeah,
super refreshing. I'm not special. I'm not the only one
yeah,
that has this shit. Everyone else is dealing with it. and we can kind
Yeah.
of connect and get it out of the way.
Yeah, there's this great. I mean, there's this. I haven't mentioned this book in a while, but it's one of my favorite books, and it's called the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck,
Yep.
by Mark. Is it Mark Manson? It's not the. It's not the other Manson, not the serial killer Manson. The, anyways, Manson is the last name. But there's a part in that book that talks about this, how this feeling of like making yourself into, how this situation of when you think of yourself as special is actually a form of entitlement that absolves you from a solution. So it's like you saying, oh, you know what, like my knees are so bad that whatever works for other people just doesn't work for me. And
Hmm.
when you're able to look at that and see the bullshit in that and say, like, well, are my knees really that different from everybody? Like, in this era of everyone sitting at a desk, not exercising enough, are my knees really that different from anybody else? You know?
Hmm.
And so if you're able to see that as, if you're able to grasp that concept of looking at yourself as special as really a form of entitlement that absolves you of responsibility of fixing the problem,
Hmm.
then you can actually you can do the thing that you need to do, rather than, getting stuck in this, oh, my life is so much worse than yours and I can't fix it.
Hmm. Yeah, and that can be, that goes for everything. That's not just fitness. Like anything that you find yourself stuck in and feeling sorry for yourself, and you get into that really bad, those cycles. It's like, no, it's not. You're not the first one, unless you're that lucky person that's experiencing something for the first time. But then that's why support groups exist. That's why there are communities out there for all kinds of things. So
Hmm.
because people, the internet is supposed to bring us closer together, but I feel like has a tendency to do the opposite. And so like I think people need community more than they're willing to admit.
Hmm.
Like they need to find someone to connect to. And and there's this, this I know so many people that like to think of themselves as like lone wolves, or not in need of others, and it's not true. Everyone
do
needs.
they do they post about it on Facebook?
I'm a
I'm a lone
lone
wolf,
wolf.
please like this status.
I'm an alpha male lone wolf, and I don't need you. Okay. Whatever.
You
Um,
need a hug, and when you
you
figure
need
that out, maybe we'll be here for you. Maybe
you
not,
need a
I don't know.
you need a hug. We need that on a t-shirt. We need a man for yoga. Do you need a hug?
Do you need a hug, bro? Yeah.
Because we have a Richard.
uh, we have a Richard who probably won't give you a hug, but he's very
No,
good at hugging
he gives great hugs, but
if
we
you are
won't we won't
worthy.
give those away for free.
Yes. Whenever I see him, I'm just like, hey, can you crack my back? And he's like, sure. And just, oh, now I'm in the air. Okay,
It's
cool.
uh it's a little different hugging him, because it's like hugging myself, and I'm not used to that.
Yes. Right. Um, so, so one of the other things that I think we do really well in our in these group communities that we're in these
Mhm.
group coaching that we're doing right now is, we see multiple touch points throughout the week to kind of keep you coming back in. And I'm just, curious from your perspective, from your experience with that, how has like those, how helpful are those multiple touch points to helping people do more than, they normally would on their own?
It's I'm gonna mess up this saying. There's this quote, and it's gonna be a grand quote, and I can look at the minutia of it. Like, so it's like, if you can like positively impact one person's life, then you've done a good thing. And so like I have a set schedule that I check up with the community often, whether it's a community or my cohort. And a lot of times you'll see like people will post throughout the day, like, hey, I did my workout, or I did this, I did that. At the end of the day, there's always those stragglers that said, you know what, I did my workout, or I did my meal prep, or I did this, or I did that. And they did it at the end of the day, but because that group was there, and you touched on this earlier, they didn't want to let the group down. And it's
Mm,
funny because like the group's not holding us accountable. Like I'm not sitting here in the coaching, even in the small groups, being like, hey, get it done. But because they know that we're here, they're holding themselves accountable, because they know that they don't want to let the group down. And
mhm,
so yeah, I've definitely seen the sharing work where there's those more active people, but then there's those stragglers. Like, you know what? I wasn't going to do it, but you all really kept me going, and here I am. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's definitely something to be said about those people that just it's yeah the sharing part.
Yeah. It makes me think about like repeated exposure to certain ideas.
Hmm.
Because, reading a book is one thing, right? Because it exposes you to the ideas. But
Uh-huh.
I think there's a difference between exposure to the ideas and then implementation of the ideas.
Yeah.
But the more that you can expose yourself to those ideas, the more that will bring you to the tipping point to actually do the thing,
Uh-huh.
right? So I used to kind of poo poo people who just listen to podcasts over and over and read books, but like I'm like, you're not making any changes though, right? But like if you can put yourself in that environment and like that's what you're hearing and that's what you're being exposed to, then hopefully eventually it gets you to that tipping point where you do take action. So being in that environment, I think can be really helpful for people who just need that extra push.
Yeah. One of the members of my group, who's retiring, he's going through a move. He has all this stuff going. He specifically joined the group because he knew that he would be struggling. He knew that he wanted to stay on top of his health while being stressed out because he knew like what's
Hmm.
a really good way to manage stress? A little bit of exercise, a little bit of me time. And so it's been a slow process because there was a lesson or a story that you told once about like if you it sometimes it has to happen in baby steps. You don't have to run 5 miles your first day running. Go for a walk. You don't have to do an hour of yoga, but if you get your mat out, it's a step in the right direction. So
Hmm.
this guy in my group, he wanted to get a gym membership, and so he finally got the gym membership. And so it was baby steps. He went to the gym
Yeah.
one day, walked on the treadmill, and so I kept encouraging him, like, no, don't set these huge goals. Set these small ones, these really attainable ones, because it's a
Hmm.
marathon, not a sprint. And so over time, I finally got him. We were able to hold him accountable. He got the gym membership. He started going, and it's just been this kind of slow growing because that's what we want to encourage. Something
Hmm.
that is something that you can easily build upon.
Hmm. Yeah. So what are there any other like maybe some common situations or like some common experiences that come up in this environment of being more successful with your fitness that people would benefit from hearing just to kind of normalize their own experience?
So yesterday, the group we talked about, something that we see a lot in the math yoga community, and people ask, well, what's the best time of day to work out? And
Mhm.
generally speaking, it's going to be what best works for you. Like I have some members that like they work out in the afternoon because mornings don't work, or they work out in the evenings. But a very common goal or common theme across my group is morning workouts. And
Mhm.
so all of the guys, we all kind of came up with this consensus. And one of the guys said it best. He said, if I don't work out first thing in the morning, I will talk myself out of doing it in the evening. I'll come up with
Mhm.
excuses. I will have all these reasons why I shouldn't do it. And so that's something I've noticed. And I get it. Mornings are hard. I have kids I have to get up for school, all these things. But if I can start my day with fitness, whether it's a walk around the block really quick before I get the kids up, or whether it's a half hour of yoga, guaranteed I'm not going to regret it. And I'm going to feel a hell of a lot better going into my day because I set the tone. I started with a little bit of me time,
Mhm.
and I'm going to feel good. So if you can start your day with fitness, and it doesn't even have to be like go lift weights, a walk. Sometimes I don't feel like doing yoga in the morning. I can't do it. I can walk. Walking's pretty easy. Go walk around the block, get some fresh air. I'm gonna feel 1,000 times better when I get home, and I'm gonna be in the right mind frame to help my family. So
Mhm.
that's definitely been something I've learned is if you can start your day with fitness. Don't make an excuse because that's usually what's going to be holding you back is your excuses. Start your day
Mhm.
with some physical activity and you're not going to regret it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the easiest way to do it. On the other hand, like you said, the best time to work out is the time that works for you. So, I've worked with some people now where they're night owls, right? And they're just awake at night, and so they're super lethargic in the morning. Like for me, for example, I've always worked out in my big workout for the day happens around 4 o'clock because
Mm.
I've been, that was when I started working out. When I was in high school and I lifted weights, and I
Oh,
still lift
cool.
weights now. That was when I lifted weights. It was at 4 o'clock. So, the idea of me waking up early and like lifting weights, like, no, I'm not ready for that. But being able to wake up and do some mobility work, some stretching, some stuff to prime my body for the day, that has been awesome. But also acknowledging that, hey, like, a lot of us would like to be that person who wakes up early and works out in the morning, but not all of us are that's just not the reality. So and being able to, you know be in a community where you ask that question and you realize, like, oh, this person does their workouts at 10 o'clock at night, like, cool. If that works for you,
Yeah.
then great. So,
Yeah.
what else?
What else?
What other Yeah, what other situations have come up? let's
Other
get let's get
situation.
let's get like one more good one.
Oh, one more good one. Well, we had a specific this week. So we're doing the community challenge. My group decided to do the core necessities. We followed along to a program together for the first month. And now we've just started this new community challenge. And it's been nice because every day we get feedback. And yesterday, everyone had the same complaint. And it was kind of refreshing. On one hand, it sucked because it was the L sits like against the wall. I think it
Yeah,
was day two, and we all struggled with it. And so it was
right.
nice because some people had advice. Like as a yoga coach, I was able to give some advice that I personally use, modifications for myself. But so
Mhm.
did like some other people did as well. And so it was nice in the fact that we all hated it together. So we all struggled with it. Even your dad did. And so but it was nice because we got to talk about it and we got to share it, and then we came up with a solution. And so the goal is for next week, we're going to try to implement all of these things and have a better attitude. And so
Mm.
that was really nice because like everyone came in, oh, that sucked. I'm like, yeah, it did. But did you do it? Yeah, you did. So it's like being able to do an L sit and hold your foot up for 5 seconds at a time is better than nothing at all. So we're going to have this changed attitude next week when we get back together because we're going to have done it a second time, and hopefully you've seen some progress. And if that progress isn't physical progress, there's going to be mental progress because we're going to approach it from a better mind frame.
Yeah, I love that. And you hived, you group hived. Is that the you
Hive mind
hived
or
H
something like that.
hive minded? Yes, you hive minded the solution. So
So it was
that's
it was it
awesome.
was nice. It was a really good moment that we shared because we were struggling.
Yeah, no, that one's tough. And if you go into the comments section, like, you'll see all those people struggling with that same movement there.
Yeah.
So cool. All right. Well, that's all that I got. You got anything to add?
No, no, not really. No, I think
Cool. All right. Well, for those of you guys who listened in, and you're listening because you're hearing this part right now, thank you for being here. I hope this gives you some ideas about how can you utilize community for your own fitness success. If you have access to a community, awesome. If you're part of the Manful Yoga community, we're here. We're in the community section of the new and improved app and members area. We're also in the Facebook group. And then if you can join group coaching next time we have um, another round start. That's a great way to do it. But anyways, lots of options available there. So Jesse, thank you again for being part of Manful Yoga, for all that you do, and thanks for coming on to discuss community success today.
awesome. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you for letting me ramble a little bit. I appreciate
Of course, yeah, long form content. We get to ramble.
that.
So there. All right, guys. Thanks for joining. I hope this inspires you to be a better man. I will see you on the next episode. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that episode with Jesse. If you don't already know where you can find Jesse, he is in the Manful Yoga community. He's in the Facebook group. He's in the community section of the members area app. You can also reach out to him there. So, hopefully, you enjoyed this episode. If you did, I encourage you to leave a review for the podcast if you haven't already. You can also watch video versions of the podcast in the members area and app, as well as on the Better Man Podcast YouTube channel. Thank you for being part of the Manful Yoga community if you are already. And if you haven't joined yet, I encourage you to get started with a free 7-day beginner's yoga for men challenge. You can sign up for that at manfulyoga.com/7DC. No credit card required. All right, guys, thanks for being here. See you on the next episode. I hope this inspires you to be a better man.